Welcome to Trend Guards. Today, we're bringing you a verified, fully source-backed explainer on a story with absolutely massive implications for the entire tech industry. Because, what if the greatest threat to a trillion-dollar AI empire isn't some quantum computer breakthrough or a nation-state cyber attack, but literally just an unreturned work laptop? Today, we're unpacking the explosive 2026 Apple versus OpenAI federal lawsuit, looking at the leaked hardware blueprints right at the center of it, and explaining exactly what this means for the future of artificial intelligence. So let's lead right off with the confirmed facts. According to the U.S. District Court docket, on July 10, 2026, Apple filed a massive 41-page federal lawsuit against OpenAI, its hardware subsidiary I/O Products, and several key executives. Now, Apple isn't just alleging some minor patent dispute here. They are claiming there is a systematic corporate espionage ring, specifically targeting their highly secretive hardware division. This legal strike is clearly designed to protect Apple's high-margin hardware ecosystem from an AI competitor that is just desperate to break free from the current smartphone duopoly. And Apple's legal filing absolutely does not mince words. They state on the public record, and I quote, "OpenAI's nascent hardware business now rests on the shakiest of foundations, rotten to its core by its illegal reliance on misappropriated trade secrets." They are directly attacking the legitimacy of OpenAI's entirely unannounced hardware ecosystem. So to understand exactly how Apple reached this pretty intense conclusion, we have to look at the specific digital evidence they handed over to a federal judge. The exact forensic evidence Apple is using to anchor their entire case centers around a former senior system electrical engineer named Sheng Liu. He resigned back in January 2026, and the sheer brazenness of this alleged exploit is captured in a verified text message included right there in the federal complaint. Liu texted an active Apple employee, Alyssa Peng, saying, "LOL, I found out I can access the network, so funny." According to the lawsuit, Liu literally just kept his authenticated work laptop after resigning and discovered an undocumented bug that gave him persistent access to Apple's network for months. But according to the court docket, Liu wasn't just casually browsing those servers. He allegedly exploited that bug to download a compiled 1,000-plus page raster reference document packed with highly classified engineering schematics. On top of that, Apple claims he coached Alyssa Peng to move their communications over to the Line app to evade internal detection, instructing her to study these confidential blueprints before her own job interview at OpenAI. If you work in IT, you know that LOL text completely destroys any defense of accidental exposure. It strongly points to deliberate intent. Apple's complaint makes it very clear that they don't view this as an isolated IT failure, but rather as part of a much larger, highly coordinated talent pipeline. And the foundation of this pipeline was a truly staggering acquisition. Back in May 2025, OpenAI spent $6.5 billion in an all-stock deal to acquire I/O Products. Now, this was a stealth startup co-founded by Apple design legend Jony Ive and Tang Tan, who is a 24-year Apple veteran that oversaw the design of the iPhone and the Apple Watch. Right after that acquisition, Tang Tan became OpenAI's chief hardware officer. This multi-billion-dollar deal essentially fueled a massive brain drain. To put it into perspective, Apple confirmed in their legal filing that over 400 former Apple employees are now working at OpenAI. We're talking about elite hardware engineers and executives. People like Paul Mead, Apple's former VP of hardware engineering for Vision Products, who just defected in June 2026. Apple is alleging this massive talent search was a deliberate attempt to essentially clone their product development machine inside OpenAI. And the allegations really escalate when you look at how this talent was allegedly interviewed. Apple claims that Tang Tan actually weaponized his knowledge of Apple's internal HR tripwires. The lawsuit details these incredible show-and-tell sessions. They claim candidates were interrogated using internal project codenames. Even wilder, they were allegedly instructed to bring actual physical, unreleased prototypes to their job interviews at OpenAI. We're talking custom batteries, electromagnetic shields, system-in-package modules. The complaint even alleges OpenAI handed out a checklist put together by Tang Tan to help new hires evade Apple's exit security detection. So you really have to ask yourself, what exactly is OpenAI building that requires Apple's deep secrets on battery chemistry and system packaging? Well, the sequence of events here is incredibly condensed. We have the I/O Products acquisition in May 2025, the alleged data theft kicking off in early 2026, and then this massive federal lawsuit dropping on July 10, 2026. And get this, just 4 days after Apple filed that suit, Bloomberg officially leaked the exact blueprints and specs of OpenAI's highly secretive first consumer device. According to Bloomberg's reporting, OpenAI is definitely not building an AI phone. Instead, they are building a portable, screenless smart speaker designed as an AI companion. This device apparently incorporates mechanical elements that allow it to physically move around autonomously, creating this sense that it's actually alive. It uses contextual cameras and spatial sensors to understand your surroundings, and it's powered by GPT-Live, which allows it to listen and talk at the exact same time with zero perceptible latency. Notably, though, due to some internal hurdles, the shipping target has been delayed to no earlier than February 2027. And that brings us to a fierce legal standoff. On one side, Apple alleges a systematic effort to misappropriate trade secrets just to jumpstart this exact device. On the other side, OpenAI explicitly denies these allegations. An OpenAI spokesperson stated flat out they have no interest in other companies' trade secrets, and they maintain they're completely unaware of any evidence showing the complaint has merit. Plus, sources close to OpenAI are arguing that their screenless, movable speaker is so radically different from an iPhone or a HomePod that it literally couldn't violate Apple's hardware trade secrets. Regardless of the technical differences between these devices, the outcome of this legal clash directly threatens OpenAI's financial survival. To understand why OpenAI needs this hardware to succeed, you really just have to look at their cash burn. OpenAI is losing money at a historic pace because of the massive compute costs required to train their models. In Q1 2026 alone, they lost $1.22 for every single dollar of revenue they brought in. Internal projections show they need an astonishing $27 billion in new capital by 2030. They are stuck in this brutal subsidy loop, paying out billions to cloud providers. So building their own hardware is a desperate, necessary bid to bypass Apple's 30% App Store tax, own that first point of contact with the user, and lock consumers into a profitable proprietary ecosystem. And this is exactly where Apple's lawsuit becomes a potential kill shot. Because this is a trade secret lawsuit, not just a standard patent dispute that usually ends with someone paying royalties. Apple is seeking a preliminary injunction. A preliminary injunction means a federal judge could literally freeze OpenAI's hardware launch indefinitely. They could legally mandate that OpenAI is banned from utilizing disputed manufacturing processes, or just ban them from selling the device entirely. That would turn a $6.5 billion acquisition into a very expensive paperweight. And every single month OpenAI is delayed is a month their main competitor, Anthropic, uses to close the valuation gap right ahead of OpenAI's upcoming IPO. Which leaves us with this final, absolutely critical question to consider today. OpenAI's entire path to a $1 trillion valuation relies heavily on escaping Apple's ecosystem by launching their own revolutionary hardware. But if a federal judge issues that injunction, halting OpenAI's $6.5 billion hardware bet before a single speaker ever ships to a consumer, does the $1 trillion generative AI bubble finally pop? It's a verified, incredibly high-stakes collision of technology, law, and capital. And you can bet we will be watching this docket closely. That's the explainer for today. Keep questioning the tech around you, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel grow. See you in the next video.